Good morning, Andy.
Morning. How's everybody doing today? And welcome to the eGPlearning podcast, where you're joined by myself and Andy.
Yep. Hello, Andy Foster here in Nottingham, socially and physically distanced from Gandhi in my bunker.
Yeah. So despite the fact that obviously lockdown seems to have eased a little bit as of today, we're still socially distancing and we'll continue to do so until we're able to be in the same room. Because unfortunately, our normal recording room that Andy's in isn't quite wide enough for us to do that effectively.
No, it's a bit too small.
Yeah. So we're having a great morning. Wishing you all hopefully keeping well and stuff. And we've got an interesting episode today, haven't we, Andy?
Yeah, so we're going to be maybe a little bit controversial. I don't know, or maybe that's being a little bit generous to ourselves, and it won't be. But
well, we'll find out in the comments, and feel free to do so if you are watching us live. So, if you do make a comment, we'll happily share that with everybody else that's watching us and stuff if you want us to, as well as feedback and things. So, as usual, I'm on the comment section. Andy's managing the screen share and stuff, although he's passing it over to me later on. Yay.
Yes, for an announcement and up. So two things we're covering today, isn't it? So one thing is later there will be an announcement, an update about the upcoming System 1 Facebook user group day conference in conjunction with TPP, which is really exciting and something that we're really thrilled to be involved in delivering later in July. So there's some more announcements and details about that. But before we get there, we'll be talking about an issue that's been in the news over the past week or so that's been quite interesting and we think raises some interesting points around promoting events and running events and public relations in the current COVID climate. So Gandhi, what's the story? What's happened?
So this is a story that's fairly localized to general practice in the UK, and it evolves last week on the 27th, I believe it was. The RCGP was hosting a conference that was online, and we are actually going to be talking a little bit more in detail about how conferences can work online in our new post-COVID world and that kind of thing. But there was a little bit of controversy around this, and that was mainly due to the title. So the COVID-19 lifestyle disease effectively was the title of the conference, wasn't it, Andy?
Yeah. So it was. I've brought up the apology because it was something that the RCGP apologised about. They did so on the same day, which I think is actually very good and very good public relations. And
bearing in mind that's a weekend, which is quite impressive in that respect.
Yeah, so so we're not throwing shade, as they say on the RCGP, but we think it just raises some interesting points. So the title of the conference was COVID-19 is a communicable virus, but it is also a lifestyle disease. Obesity, diabetes, and other lifestyle diseases are associated with poorer outcomes from infection. And that was the title of this session. So Gandhi, what was the actual content of the session? Because the title's controversial, but the actual content.
So the content of the session, will be clear, neither of us actually attended the conference. However, one of the things that they were quite clear about was that the content afterwards was focused along how you can support patients with lifestyle changes and choices, and also to help educate clinicians in terms of dealing with lifestyle medicine. So particularly things like how to support patients being more active, looking at healthier diets, consulting as well. So there was a session on how to consult through video consultations because we are in a post-COVID world, and various aspects of that. And the feedback from the conference by the people that went has seemed to be amazing. I mean, I've spoken to a few people in the college and various other attendees and stuff, and the content was really good from what I hear. The issue about this has clearly been around the promotion of the conference, and especially the title, which for many people has caused a lot of frustration and aggravation because it suggests that COVID is down to lifestyle. And we are quite clear that is not the case. If you look at the Public Health England data, I mean, Andy was talking about this earlier, a lot of the risk factors for COVID are non-modifiable. So if you were to compare, for example, me and Andy, everyone who's working in general practice and various other parts have to do risk assessments. I automatically get 2 points, 2 ticks on the risk assessment just because I'm male, because I'm an ethnic origin, automatically, despite generally having very fit and healthy lifestyle and everything else, and the finance to afford a fit and healthy lifestyle. But that's automatic. Those are 2 things I can't change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to flash up because somebody who I think we, or at least I know from the past, who spent some time in Nottingham, Dr. Khan wrote a good follow-up article in Pulse, and he pointed out some of these things. He sort of had a look at the Public Health England data. And yeah, so a lot of the biggest risk factors for COVID-19 identified by Public Health England aren't modifiable. So it's things like ethnicity as a big factor, male gender, as Gandhi pointed out, and obviously certain types of employment as well, that they link to people of certain socioeconomic or ethnic backgrounds. Basically those sorts of employment where home working or distancing is difficult. So driving a taxi, working in a shop, those sort of lower income type things can be more difficult to distance and put you at increased risk of COVID-19. But the key thing is that they're not modifiable. So when they're talking about lifestyle disease, I mean, what were they talking about, Gandhi? Because it seems a lot of the big risk factors, they're things people can't do anything about, apart from maybe employment, but that's hard.
Yeah. Well, I think there was an attempt to try and focus on the fact that some of the other risk factors are things like, for example, obesity, smoking and breathing difficulties, which there is obviously an association between smoking and, for example, COPD, a clear association there. So I think it was trying to tackle some of those things that potentially are modifiable. But a lot of them are also based on deprivation. And actually, are we talking about a wider issue here in terms of actually deprivation being the risk factor rather than things like the obesity and the breathing disease? That's, I think, a discussion for PHE and various other things. And that has been raised in numerous places, that we know that areas of higher deprivation seem to have significant greater challenges with a lifestyle and having a healthy lifestyle, but also in terms of COVID prevalence as well. It seems to be a little bit more prevalent in areas where there's higher deprivation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues I have here, and it's we both work in deprived areas, don't we, Gandhi?
Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose we have to flag that up, but that gives us some experience with deprivation and communities facing challenge, and lifestyle factors are really, really important, and it's something that we'd really, really want to and need to change. But it's a really complicated issue, and I think sometimes when you just see these headlines or titles, it can sometimes draw people to the wrong conclusions. I think where I'm going with this is there's sometimes a bit of a blame issue around lifestyle issues, because the public at large, and perhaps a lot of professionals, may not understand how complicated it is. It's not that easy for people in facing a lot of other challenges to change their lifestyle. It's really complicated. There's all sorts of things about the geography of where they live, what sort of shops are there, what's the availability of places to exercise, what else is going on in their life that draws their attention away from focusing on these lifestyle factors. It's just a lot more complicated. So, and I'm sure probably within the content of the session, they acknowledged all of these things. But I just think the messaging around the title is a little bit unfortunate in that respect.
Agreed. And I think that's part of the problem that we saw over the weekend. So, it was announced that this conference was happening. Actually, it seemed that there was some controversy around that even. So one of the comments, I think it's somewhere in the links and stuff, you're welcome to have a look, but one of the leads for that particular area actually came out and said that he wasn't aware that this conference was even happening within the RCGP. So that's saying that there's been some communication issues here within the organization. And then that's led to this, I think, greater challenge of, was this an appropriate title? Was it deliberately chosen to be controversial to try and stoke interest and, get more signups and all that kind of stuff, which, okay, those are tactics that are often used. But at the same time, was that appropriate? We've had a lot of challenges over the past few months with COVID and the resulting impact that's had. Should this have been an opportunity to monopolize on that for whatever reason, whether that's sharing information or increasing or whatever, it's a PR nightmare, to be honest. I'll hold my hand up. I've become slightly involved in this because there's a National Representative Council. Many representatives were asked to give their opinion on this whole issue. And I've been quite clear. As a member of the college, I'm still an avid member of the college. I support it. I do feel the college has purpose and drive and need. But it's really hard to try and share that when you have faux pas like this. Really hard. And I think that's a frustration that is increasingly being felt by many representatives of the college that aren't directly involved in the organisation of the college, like myself and others. I don't know how you feel, Andy. I mean, obviously, similar to myself, you've had roles within the college, particularly locally, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. So I love the college. I think it's got a good, it plays a good role actually, and I think it does represent general practice well on the media stage. I suppose I've got some questions I have about this. Is so, you can see how it happens, because I know when we're thinking about content and videos and how to title them, a debate we have is, okay, COVID's pretty hot right now. People are interested in COVID-19 because it's, it's a huge event that's happening right now. And we think, should we focus on something else, or, is actually COVID what the audience wants, and will that get the clicks and the signups? And you wonder if that's been a factor in titling this event. I also, we noticed it was, I had some input from Sport England as well. So hence, the lifestyle, the lifestyle element to it. But I just wonder whether they've shoehorned COVID in to something that was going to be something else. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, to me, it does seem there was an element of this. If it was a conference that was about lifestyle and trying to support clinicians and helping patients with lifestyle, improving lifestyle in general, that itself is a valuable topic. I personally do believe that. I think there's different levels that people take in terms of lifestyle medicine, and there's the element of what is modifiable and what is supportive, versus there is unfortunately an element of medicine that, from my perspective, that focuses far too much on lifestyle being the only thing, and even going into potentially clearly non-evidence-based lifestyle medicine, and that I'm not supportive of. But the general stuff of trying to keep yourself healthier, trying to make some of the right choices and small gains that can build up, in terms of the types of food that you eat and those kind of things that could be useful, and definitely anything that supports patients of deprived areas to help make better choices, I'm massively keen on. But yeah, it does kind of feel like there was an element of, let's go for something that's hot, let's go for something that's just in the face of things, and let's just try and get more people engaged.
I think there's a lesson there for all of us who are trying to promote things and promote events. So Gandhi, how can the college avoid this happening again, do you think? If you were sat there running media or education or events with the college, and this has been a problem, you don't want it to happen again, how are you going to avoid it? What would be your actions within that organization?
So if I was all high master and control of the college, which I will never be, I'll make that quite clear.
Well, you never know, Gandhi.
No, ain't gonna happen, mate. But in terms of, if that was within my gift, I would say I would ask the college to consider looking at some proper PR advice. This isn't the first time the college has had some PR challenges, and I think whether they have that advice or not, I don't know. But if they do, then they potentially need to change it. If they don't, then they definitely need to get it. To look at having some mechanism of, soundboarding, sound testing. I mean, we do this for any of the stuff that we put out in terms of events, in terms of content that we want to create. We kind of give feelers beforehand. We say, this is what we're thinking about. What do you think? A lot of my eGP learners will know I do this on a regular basis with just simple as the thumbnails for the videos that I put out. I will often say, which one looks better? Which one seems more sensible? That kind of stuff. Getting feedback on what you're doing is really valuable. Now, I can understand as a college, as a massive organization, that can be challenging to do, but actually that doesn't mean you don't do it. Focus groups, that kind of stuff, particularly for things that you think you want to put real resources behind or are new in particular. Those are the things you really need to get some decent feedback from members, not from people that work for the college. That's the difference, because you get tunnel vision sometimes, and that's where the problems come.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. I think there's a balance to be struck as well, because one response might be to say, okay, all events, we're going to run the title through a central person or committee who is going to make sure that these are very, very safe. And I think the danger is that sometimes you need to flirt with controversy a little bit.
There needs to be the ability to innovate with that as well. Yeah. It's not that you have, but that's where you get a sounding board. It's not that you take everything for gospel. You use that to help garner your opinion, which is different from letting them make the decision for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're probably driving at the same solution, which is, I think, a little bit of sense checking by somebody sensible is appropriate. But before you get to that stage, actually test things, see what people think, have some awareness of what the community wants. And I think you're really good with your A/B testing of titles and things like that. It's a great concept. It's good to see it being used closer to medicine than where it might ordinarily be used. So that's really good. So the other thing, so there perhaps is a factor here. So lifestyle is complex, and it's difficult to change. And God knows we try, often in our day-to-day practice, and it's frustrating. It's a big challenge, and it can be a factor in. Ultimately, it does become a factor in acute diseases, like COVID-19, and it is something that people could change to modify their outcomes, although they might had to have changed it several months or years ago. So it's more of a factor for the next thing, isn't it? It's more of a general resilience to acute disease sort of thing. Nonetheless, we need to try and affect it. Maybe COVID-19 is a useful tool to speak to for that. Have you got any ideas about how to use it? Is it easier to change now that we've got COVID-19 as an example? Is that useful?
I mean, we could talk about obviously the concepts of things like the change cycle and the challenges that people face when you're doing it. You have to get people to that point where they want to change and are engaged with that concept of changing. And I think for many people, COVID has, streamlined or polarized their thoughts on how they want their life to be, because it's just been such a big thing, hasn't it? It's just changed everyone's scape in terms of what life can actually be or should be like. One of the challenges we have all the time, Andy, is patients who smoke, trying to support them to not smoke, because we know pretty much across medicine, if you don't smoke, you are likely to be healthier than if you do smoke. Yeah, that's pretty much a given. So is this a mechanism to support patients? Well, we know that if you smoke, your chances are likely to have a more complicated or difficult journey if you were to catch COVID, and potentially even more likely to catch COVID because your underlying respiratory system is more challenged. And we know that COVID does affect the lungs and obviously the impact there. So, is that a mechanism to support patients to help move them along that change cycle to make those more positive changes? I think it is. But at the same time, you don't go around beating them with a stick about it. It's about helping patients to make that decision. And that's where I think things like this can be done positively. It's just, not naming a conference after it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think COVID-19 it's going to become it will remain a really sort of powerful reminder of mortality and vulnerability. And, it's just a huge thing that has happened that you can tie other things to potentially to get behavioral change in the future. So I think there perhaps is some mileage as citing it as an example of something that is potentially modifiable by lifestyle changes. But yeah, you're right. Don't name a conference after it. And, it's not something that you should get drawn into that blame game with, which I think is,
and I think it's very easy
superficially attractive with lifestyle issues.
Like you said, whether it is a blame game or not, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's easy for sometimes for certain aspects to make those assumptions that it is, blame. As you said, both of us work in, fairly deprived areas across Nottingham City. And the challenge is there, like you said, it's about resources. It's having the capabilities to make these changes positively and continuously. That's the harder part. It's really easy to make a change. It's really hard to stick with making a change. That's where the challenge really comes in. And if you don't, for example, we know that generally speaking, eating fresh fruit and vegetables on a daily basis, you are more likely to have a healthier lifestyle than if you don't. Well, if you are living on income support and the only money you have is, 80 odd pounds a week, that includes your bills and, paying for your kids and everything else, then what kind of food can you genuinely afford for that amount of money that comes under the fresh fruit and vegetable categories, as well as the fresh meat category, all those other kind of things? Yes, it's possible. It's just a hell of a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
It's difficult, and you need to draw on other resources to do it. You need to have headspace to be, organized to go out and, travel further, to to the shops where you can get these things, and to organize your cooking and, cooking from scratch and things. And it's, it's hard when people have such busy lives, maybe working 1-2 jobs, looking after multiple children, single parent households. It's really difficult. But let's be more optimistic, Andy. So we like to talk about technology on this podcast.
Definitely.
And there's been a huge amount of technological innovation and change during COVID that might make all sorts of new things possible. The patients are much more attuned to using technology for their health. We as professionals are much better at using technology to support our patients, using video and remote consulting. Who knows, there might even be group consulting, coming in the future.
Definitely.
That's all been jogged along by COVID. So what do you or we think, technology, how might technology help address some of these lifestyle issues, do you think?
I think wearables is going to be a massive part of it. So we talked previously about how wearables can have an impact in human behavior and supporting change. Yes, there's definitely a cost element. Can vary from anywhere between 15 quid a device to up to, Apple iWatch is what, 350, 400 odd for okay, no, Andy's the Apple expert compared to myself. But they can give you feedback mechanisms that allow you to support or promote the change that you're trying to make. So that's definitely one area I think that we will see things adjust in the future. Example I give you, some of my family members have now a household challenge over who can do the most steps on a day, and they use their Fitbit devices that they've all got to track and compete with each other, to see who can do it. And they're all trying to win, which is great, I think, promotes competition, engagement, social aspects of it, all with the view of trying to see who can do the most activity, which again, generally we know active lifestyles, generally healthier lifestyles.
That's good. Yeah, I think there's a few avenues for this. So I think health professionals and organizations can get better at using technology. I'm quite interested in group consultations. Maybe it's just a bit of a pet interest, but I've had lots of good Zoom meetings, some not so good Zoom meetings. We were toying with the idea of group consultations, but the logistics are quite difficult, getting everyone in the same room at the same time. And I just wonder if there's something about bringing people together to address lifestyle issues or lifestyle diseases like diabetes, for example.
Group consultations is a method that NHS England have supported as one of their 10-point action plans to improve primary care, and things that can help manage in terms of patient demand, quality of care, and generally streamlining the type of care that you offer. And you're right, the problem we now have is trying to get all those people into a room has suddenly become even more challenging with social distancing and the aspects that come into that. However, doing that through a video consultation is really easy, Getting them all to join in, you have the facilitator leading the session, like a webinar style or even a meeting style, and you can actually support people to engage in that. There is the element of onboarding to use the tech system, whatever that may be. Again, with COVID, we've seen that massive right shift of people being able to use these kind of technologies a lot more effectively. We've got 80-year-olds that can now Zoom away like crazy, which is awesome, I think. If people are interested in that, I'm going to give a shout out to a company that I know has been trying to lead on this, so Practice Unbound, who we've talked about in some of the previous podcasts and stuff and things. Definitely, they've been doing some amazing work with group consultations. And I know that they're looking at how that can work through a a web-based mechanism to support practices and things. And you're right, I think it would work really well. Imagine if you did your diabetic reviews as a group consultation with patients in terms of education and lifestyle changes and stuff like that, to debunk the myths and all that kind of things, like the fact that eating bananas every day is really good for diabetes. It's not. Let's be clear on that. Daily bananas, not good. But
I only eat prunes. I eat loads of prunes. Isn't that good for my diabetes? No. Anyway,
maybe good for the bowels.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing which I think might happen, and I'd love to see happen, is so throughout COVID-19, I think the social media companies have been a bit more responsible in terms of information on their platforms, a bit more. And we covered this right at the very beginning, actually, where we'd noticed and seen articles obviously pointing out that if you were in Facebook or Twitter or other social media platforms, or Google, and you were appearing to search for something to do with coronavirus, it would link to good government-based
information,
authoritative advice at the top of the search feed before you got to any of the slightly more dubious links and information. And that was a really good step, I think. And they will hopefully move in the same direction in other respects. But that's an example of one intervention they've done. I think those companies have such a huge impact on people's lives. Facebook, in particular, in my community, that seems to be what people use. And if they were to become a bit more responsible, or even from a sort of corporate responsibility point of view, and it would be good for their PR, actually do some of their own healthy lifestyle campaigning, because they need to get back in government and people's good books now, because they're in the sights of antitrust litigation in the US and things like that. So there's sort of the motivation to do something positive for society there, and I think this is something where they could have a big impact. So I'd love to see social media companies in particular using the power of their platforms to address some of these issues. And I think COVID-19 could be one of the catalysts that enables this to happen. What do you think of that idea, Gandhi?
Definitely. I think, even just something as simple as, you've been using this for X amount of time, do you want to take a break? If the platforms had just that simple mechanism. YouTube's a great example for this. So, you can go down the rabbit hole when it comes to watching YouTube videos, and 2 hours later you realize, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Actually, just having a simple reminder that comes up after 40 minutes or an hour or so that says, you've been watching this for an hour, do you want to continue? Do you want to get a walk, go for a quick walk or something like that? Just even something as simple as that would, I think, have huge benefits to the general population in terms of engagement with devices, kids over watching screens and stuff, massively so. And it's still, the responsibility is still on the user, but it's the organization being responsible at recognizing that, yes, whilst they promote value and education and all the other kind of entertainment aspects, they do have some responsibility of, helping the user. It's like the gambling companies, they have a responsibility to make sure people don't overuse their system. Tech is no different. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that comparison with the gambling industry is a good one, actually, because these social media products are designed to be addictive and to draw people in the same way as, as gambling gives you that payoff that draws people in. So again, any other lessons to be learned from this sort of issue that the RCGP have had with the labeling of this conference, do you think?
Well, I think one of the things we also wanted to talk about was also conferences as a whole, wasn't it, in terms of the tech, and we are now in a different kind of world. Going to a conference is going to be a completely different experience, and I think it's something that many people are, to a degree, even missing, because there's a huge social aspect of going to conferences, but also the educational dump, as I like to call it. So you go to a day, you get all the information on a particular topic that you've chosen, and that works really, really well. And actually, that's become a real problem now, because logistically trying to get people into a conference environment has obviously huge challenges when it comes to social distancing, health, people being able to turn up. One of my family members, he runs a business whereby he had a whole family booked in to see him, and they had to cancel on the day because one of those family members suddenly had a cold. And therefore, that's a huge impact in terms of how that works.
Yeah,
that's where, but I guess that's where tech can help.
Yes, and I was going to say the other things that I think are missing. So I've been involved in attempting to run an online, I think conference is too grand a word, but a large online event that replaced a conference that would have existed before. And you do miss certain things certainly with the Zoom platform that we used, and that's those coincidental encounters with people who you perhaps know or you don't know, and you just kind of calibrate what's happening in your day-to-day life, what's happening at the practice, how are you addressing certain issues, the sorts of things that do not come up within the agenda of the conference, but you just casually talk about. And those are really, really valuable encounters, and they're just not happening at the moment. And actually, even within organizations where you've been using Zoom meetings, these are the sorts of conversations that sometimes grease the wheels, you might say, a little bit, and keep people on rapport with one another and actually keep things functioning. And if they're not happening, it's a problem. Go on, Gandhi. You're about to talk about, I think, platforms.
Well, yeah, no. Before we go into that, like you say, the additional benefits you get of attending people face to face have been lost to some degree. So we talked about this last time when I Zoom bombed your session from the RCGP council meeting, which was a similar thing. You know, a council meeting is akin to a conference. It just doesn't have the sponsors and all the other kind of educational elements. But, you know, we talked about how having a chat down the side was actually really helpful because it meant people could have discussions around the topics without actually interfering with the main stage elements of things, but at the same time losing that capabilities of having those, you know, sociable contacts because it's still work focused in that respect, and it's harder to have those intermediate kind of things that sometimes can be really fruitful in terms of developing connections or making progress with other aspects. I mean, often at most council meetings I will record 1 or 2 episodes of this because I've got the opportunity to get people at hand and just, you know, say, oh, that sounds really interesting. Should we just record that really quickly? And I've not been able to do any of that this time around because actually sitting through a 3-hour meeting, I don't want to spend more time on my computer talking to people about other things as well. As the drive's just not there. So it has pros and cons. And I know particularly we've attended a couple of things similar to this recently. You've ran one recently, the AIT conference that was done. And the feedback from that was amazing, but we definitely learned, I think both of us, we've learned some lessons on how to try and do this better, which hopefully we will take forward with our own little conference coming forward and things. Yeah.
So we're nearly at that announcement.
Yeah.
So the council meeting, so did it run to time better because it was on Zoom or not?
I think yes and no. I think for certain aspects it did, but when we got to a meaty topic where everybody wanted to join in, it became very challenging, I think, for the officers to coordinate that because I think people got more accustomed to the system and realized that they could contribute and house contribute. So therefore more people wanted to contribute. So then the number of people wanting to speak suddenly became quite significant. And that posed a challenge of at what point do you say we have to stop? And that's always a challenge with the council meetings. There are some topics which are just more meaty, and as a result of that, you know, people want to have more say. And it's just trying to moderate that, because then additionally they had the chat which had some useful content in, and they're trying to capture that as well. So whilst the chat was a help in some ways, it was also a hindrance because it produced more information.
It's really tough. Yeah. One thing I found with the event I was involved in was it removes the problem of shifting people physically from one space to another and getting people back in after they've had coffee. So you can start the session because, you know, they're just there and the session just starts. So in some respects, I found running to time probably
and people joining is generally less intrusive as well. Depends on how you have it set, but I would always recommend if you're doing something like that, you set it so that it doesn't alert you every time somebody joins the meeting. But by doing that, you can just crack on. And actually, does that mean people are more likely to join at the relevant point rather than drifting in? Maybe, because you're just going to crack on, aren't you, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So are we moving towards the further detailed announcements around the System 1 Facebook user group conference?
Yeah, I think so. So Andy's going to hand me over the screen, I think, at this point. I think you can just
take it.
I can take it. Yeah, let's go for that, shall we? Let me just do that and screen share. Where are we? I need to get the right tab.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, just bear me 1 second. I've got to get the right tab up. There we go.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it's coming. Sorry, I'm being a bit slow at this. That's all. There we go. Guys.
That's better.
So just to share with everybody, so Andy and myself are running the System 1 Facebook user group online conference with TPP. So we call it the Online Summit. This is on the 24th of July, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. And this is being done in conjunction with TPP themselves. So they are providing quite a lot of the content. And we've got, the reason why I want to talk to you today is because we finalized a lot of the main content. There is more to come. We're quite clear on that. But effectively, it's an online conference for 4 hours, which you can dial in for. the best way I can explain it is kind of like a Zoom conference, but there's so much more you can do for this. And this is the schedule that we've got. So we've got welcome and introduction. We're going to have System 1 share their roadmap for primary care over the next few months. And that's going to be a really cool session, followed by a Q&A session with the product developers and the programmers themselves. So you can pretty much ask any questions. That will be pre-submitted questions, just so that we can help monitor that for time. But in addition, throughout the conference, we will have dedicated sessions where you can sit with a product developer and basically ask pretty much anything you want, and they will either try and support giving you an answer there and then, or get back to you with an answer later down the line. So we are really trying to develop this as a way of helping the users use System 1 more effectively. We then got a really awesome session about the top tips to using System 1. This is probably pitched at those people who have been using System 1 for a little bit and want to get the best out of it. So you're, definitely not your advanced users, but your intermediate kind of users and things. We've got a session by some of our sponsors. So we've got Ardens joining us, and we've got a few other sponsors that are going to be giving dedicated sessions about how their systems can work and enhance System 1. And then stuff like advanced protocols. So there's users who want to get the most out of using protocols in the System 1, using AirMid, which has been a massive request in terms of how that works effectively. I think this is going to be the sleeper hit, the appointments and auto consultations one. If you ask any practice manager, managing the appointment System 1 is just a nightmare sometimes. So understanding that a lot better, I think it's going to go down really well. And then we have got other modules like the community PCN modules, community care modules, CCG reporting stuff and things. So we've got a session dedicated for those extra modules as well. And then the big finale, where we're going to give you some interesting stuff at the end of this as well.
Ooh, interesting announcements potentially.
Yeah. And one of the reasons we want to share this with you, so this is obviously our schedule for the conference. As I said, there's still more to come. We haven't finalized everything, and there is more content as well. 2 reasons. Number one, the early bird tickets finish on Friday. So that's going to be the 10th of July. After that, the ticket price does go up. But additionally, we wanted to show you kind of what this will look like, because we commented that many people have used Zoom and that kind of stuff for conferences. And while Zoom is a really great platform that both me and Andy love, we really enjoy using it. For conferences, it doesn't work as well because it doesn't give you that level of engagement. It doesn't give you that opportunity to speak to people in the same way that you would get in a conference experience. We're using a platform that hopefully will allow that to happen. So we're using something called Hop-In. So when you sign in, this is what you will see. So the main reception with all that content details, and you can select which sessions you want to go to, whether that's main stage, like your big main room, or separate sessions, so individual sessions. And that's the stage area. There's no point in me showing you now because you won't see anything. The sessions, I think, yeah, some of them are on there already. So we've got a couple. Just to point out, the timed sessions you won't see immediately. They'll come up at the relevant times. But then there'll be some other breakout sessions. So we're creating a coffee room if people just want to literally sit in there and chat to other people, they can do. And there's an expo area where you'll be able to speak to some of the sponsors and that kind of stuff and engage with them and things. We're just loading that up now for you. So that'll be up when people log in. But this basically allows you to speak to people, chat to people, engage with the conference. You've got a chat area down here, which is for the conference itself. And then in addition, we've got polls and also area where you can talk to all the people, delegates are there. I'm not going to click on that because it'll show you all the details, but once you've registered, you'll be able to see all of that and things.
Yeah. Gandhi, I'm really excited about this, the networking element, because that's really what's been missing from the other events that I've been to. And I know we tried that out and it was really quite impressive. You can chat with other delegates and you can enter into video chats with them if you want to just, have a conversation. So I'm really excited about using this platform, and it's almost worth joining for the experience of using the platform, and if that's something you might want to use for your own conference, just sort of taking a look at that in action as well as the System 1 content. Yeah,
definitely. I haven't seen a platform that provides this level of engagement. I think that's one of the things that this focuses on, is trying to encourage engagement between delegates to delegates, but also delegates to speakers and sponsors and that kind of stuff, which you can give a presentation, that's fine. But one of the problems is not everybody wants just a didactic, here's the thing, go read it. If that's the case, you might as well just stick it up on YouTube and let people watch it at their own convenience. Case in point, most of our content will be available afterwards as well for the people that attend. So one of the big pieces of feedback we had is that people having access to things like the slides and the content afterwards, we will be making sure that for majority of the content, that will be available shortly after the conference. easy access, no problems and stuff.
Yeah, which is great, because some people might look at the program and think, I'd love to be in the protocols, but also the AirMid thing. So, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. If you attend the conference, then you can catch up with the one you missed afterwards. Probably, I think not everything is available afterwards. But
a couple of sessions, just because of the information and stuff, we won't be able to record and things. But pretty much everything that is topic based will be recorded and available afterwards. Things like obviously sponsor sessions and stuff, we're not going to specifically record those, just because that's their content. And also, people want to talk and chat and things and do things. Coffee room clearly is not going to be recorded. Make that clear, so you can just chill out and relax and stuff and whatever. But we're really happy. I've enjoyed creating this conference. Really looking forward to it. We're going to be on hand throughout the day. Myself and Andy basically just facilitating as well. So if you are joining us, feel free to say hi to us. We'll both be around, and you get to see us hopefully do this well. We hope, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Things were so very exciting. So Gandhi, just one last time. So if you want a ticket for the conference, what do you do?
So we'll stick the links in the show notes here. If you're just watching us or listening to us and you just want to type in, it's bit, so bit.ly and then it's all capitals S1 FBUG 2020, System 1 Facebook User Group 2020. If you just go to that link, it'll take you to the page. Sign up, as I said, until Friday. It's £25 on the early bird ticket. After that, it does go up to £30. And the tickets will close a couple of days before the event, just so that we know exactly how many people are coming. Got quite a few people signed up already. Got loads of awesome content still to come. We're just finalizing all the details and stuff. So we've got some really, really cool stuff. And what I'm most looking forward to is hopefully that ability for us to give engagement to our users and to share that knowledge. I think there's going to be some really cool content there.
Yeah, so exciting times. So that probably brings us to the end of our content, Gandhi, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out. So as usual, myself and Andy are providing loads of other episodes for you. In addition, I've been going live every Tuesday evening at the moment, so that's been really fun and enjoyable. Last Tuesday actually was my live commentary of Accurix's big announcement about their patient triage system, which was really interesting to do. I quite enjoyed that, actually, I must admit. And this Tuesday, we're talking about starting telephone consultations. It's an interesting topic I've seen a few times on some of the Facebook groups. A lot of people asking how to do it. So I'm going to have a go at showing you what I do and what I've been doing for the past few years in terms of telephone consultations and stuff. And on the 29th is going to be another day for you to bookmark. We've got something really interesting happening for all of you in terms of those of you interested in digital first products and online consultations. So watch this space. Further announcement coming later this week. And I've got a special surprise for everybody for my birthday as well.
Can't wait.
Yeah. And he's had a sneak peek at this. So he's trying to keep stum because I told him he's not allowed to share yet.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting and a little bit different as well, which is good.
Yeah, very much so. We'll see.
So, right. So I guess that brings us to a close. So it's been an enjoyable conversation this morning. Hopefully we've not been too controversial and the RCGP won't be ringing us up. I once went on Sky TV and around the cyber attack, and then in the next few days, the college rang me up. I said something about Jeremy Hunt that was actually fairly bland, but they rang me up and spoke to me about it, which was interesting. So hopefully they won't be knocking on our doors.
Welcome to knock on my door. Yeah,
they're welcome. I'd love to have a conversation. So great. So it's goodbye from me, and see everybody in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and goodbye from me. As always, any comments or questions, grab us, whichever platform you prefer. Definitely subscribe, ring the bell. And as always, eGPlearning is here to help save you and your patients time by taking answer in primary care and learning. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Cool. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
End it. There we go.